Efficiency Unlocked is hosted by two tech-savvy physicians and dear friends of mine, Drs. Adam Karu and Dale Gold, who are experts in using technology to automate routine tasks and increase efficiency in everyday and business life. Let's see what they have for us today.
Stay tuned for this series of episodes where we'll be discussing the game-changing impact of AI in the realm of patient care and physician well-being.
Get ready to unlock efficiency with NerdMDs.
Efficiency Unlocked.
Patients should not be so dependent on us, on our experience and knowledge and burnout level or the time of day that they come to see us. We as physicians need to be equipped with tools that help us to always give the best care that we can to our patients.
Welcome to this week's episode of the NerdMDs podcast. That was Dr. Michal Katz, the co-founder and chief medical officer of Kahun Medical. With its clinical oversight API solution, Kahun Technology sets a reliability standard by providing clinically verified outputs, powered by its proprietary knowledge graph of more than 30 million evidence-based medical insights. Kahun has created a layer that overcomes the technology gaps encountered when using generative AI for clinical decision generation. This is where this product is really interesting. This product has the ability to merge with existing generative AI products to provide that clinical oversight layer and give that evidence-based guardrail for these amazing tools. Welcome, Dr. Katz. We're super happy to have you on the show today from afar. And we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I think, today's going to be a kind of an interesting show because we found out about you and your company from your company reaching out to us. And I think Dale and I were both really intrigued by just kind of the initial email intro and then the meeting that we had just to kind of learn more about the product. So I look forward to having this further conversation so others can hear about this and also just learn a little bit more about you as well. Sound okay for a plan for today?
It sounds perfect.
Awesome. No, that's great. So I think to kick things off, it'd be great if you could share a little bit about yourself and your journey as throughout your kind of medical career, and then what led you to ultimately start this company, and then we'll go into more details, about the company and that sort of thing. But why don't we kick off there?
Sounds good. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Michal Katz. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kahun. My background actually started in tech. So I came out of the Israeli Defense Force doing what I was doing there, and went into computer science and started, working as a software engineer for a few years. And very soon realized that medicine is a dream of mine that I will never leave and until I fulfill it. And then I moved on to my medical path, trained as a physician, specialized as a pediatrician, and started to work in the medical practice, which is just about the time when we kind of started Kahun. So we started Kahun at the end of 2018, me and my two co-founders. And really looking forward to start telling you about Kahun.
No, that's great. So what, I guess along that journey of you, going through your medical training and becoming a pediatrician, when did you start to maybe even start to conceptualize that, you wanted to create some sort of health technology solution to, probably with problems and some of the things that you were already starting to see?
Yeah. Okay. So, I think going into medical school after being a software engineer for so many years, I think medicine was kind of wired differently into my brain than the typical medical student. I was always, thinking more logically, I guess, about this profession, understanding the science that is behind everything that we learn when we go through this training process, which is a long process, and then moving into the clinical world, being, able to analyze and process all this knowledge in real time when we are thinking about the patients that we need to treat, when we make decisions about these patients. And I think this is probably what led me to this path, and what kind of brought me into the wanting to bring tools that would make this process much more efficient and more standardized. But I mean, maybe to give you maybe I'll jump into a story that happened relatively around that time when we started building Kahun. Is that when I started practice, I just finished my residency and started to practice in a specific clinic that was run by one of my gurus of pediatrics. You always have this guru that that physician that you look up to, and you think this is the type of physician I would want to be when I grow up. So I was honored to start working in her clinic, and I literally, that was like the first day that I came to the clinic, and there was like waiting room full of children that are waiting to come into my room, and I went in and I started to work, and I saw a kid, another one, and literally like the third parent that came into the room, he came in with this girl. His daughter was 5 years old, and I started taking a history. She was a fever for 2-3 days. She's been complaining of sore throat, and which was relatively typical presentation till that point. And the parent and the father tells me that his daughter has been walking around the house like a drunk person in the last few hours. So, I come to the girl and we take her to the examination table, and we start doing the physical examination. And, he said that she was walking like a drunk, that initially, immediately triggered neurological sign. And I completed a full neurological examination, which of course is not something that you normally do in a viral presentation kid. And then there were like positive objective signs on her physical examination, like positive cerebral signs, her nose test was positive, and so on. I remember getting back to my computer thinking, oh my God, I don't believe that like the third kid that I'm seeing here on literally my first day at work, I'm going to be sending to the ER. What would my guru think of this? But I realized there was absolutely no other option here. It was, this kid needs brain imaging, and she needs it now. And I sent her to the ER, and half an hour later, she was already in the CT scan, and there was a brain tumor there, and she was operated on that same night. I think that experience or that a story really made it clear to me that there was something random about that. I mean, was it maybe if I was already like 2 years into the profession, would I still be that alert? And to that, just one sentence that father said, would I be, still doing, to that full physical examination? And this is what scared me. This is what got me thinking that patients should not be so dependent on us, on our experience and knowledge and burnout level, or the time of day that they come to see us. We as physicians need to be equipped with tools that help us to always give the best care that we can to our patients. And that was just a really very strong driving force, and has been and always been. I mean, I'll never forget that girl, but it just continues. As you go into this profession, you realize that we are humans, and we are limited by our human brains in the way that we process the knowledge, in the way that we remember and able to update ourselves with every piece of information out there. So, yeah, that was the driving force. for me.
No, that's a powerful story. I mean, I think, in what you're getting at, or in what you're describing, for folks that are listening to this that don't have a medical background, is, you're really talking about that kind of intelligent clinical decision support, right? To be able to help, because I think as, nurses or physicians or other practitioners, in medicine, we obviously have a huge fund of knowledge, but having these kind of digital tools in front of us, that can, like you said, help and kind of augment and bring forth, the right thing to do for that right patient. That's been key. And I think, what I think we'll go into next, a little bit about how Kahun does this specifically. But, I think up until this point, clinical decision support has been, very algorithmic, but very programmatic, you have to hit it with certain very specific criteria. And I think, this age of artificial intelligence is really going to accelerate, these types of tools and really make them much more like an assistant, or someone that's truly able to help augment the care that's delivered. So yeah, that, I think, well, I wanted to say too, based on your background and your intro, what you just said, you're like perfect for this podcast because, we call it NerdMDs. And I think anyone that started in tech and went into medicine and then kind of came full circle to tech fits perfect. So you're the ideal guest for this show. But let's pivot a little bit and talk more about Kahun, maybe a little bit about what it did initially back in 2018 when you said you kind of started things, but and then get to what it's like today and how it, really is impactful to, the clinicians who are using it today.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for calling me a nerd. I take that as a compliment.
It's always a compliment.
So as we said, clinical decision supports have, been around for in different stages for the past decades. And when we started Kahun and we wanted to bring these tools, and we were very much focused on the physicians and what it will take for physicians to be able to use these tools, for them to empower the physicians, and for them to gain enough trust in these tools that we bring them. And we realized that the key point is the transparency and the evidence, because after all, this medicine is a scientific profession, and there are publications and research studies and evidence, scientific evidence behind everything that we use in order to make decisions. So we built a very strong foundation model, which is a knowledge graph. Technically speaking, it's a knowledge graph. It's like, you can imagine it like a map connecting all the elements of medicine, but connecting them in a way that captures the understanding of the connection between all these elements, the diseases, their manifestations, the clinical presentations, epidemiology, risk factors, you name it. Everything that is out there in the science of medicine is connected within our knowledge graph in a way that holds both the type and of the connection, whether it's associative or causality or risk factor, as I said, but also the statistical intensity of these connections. You can think of this map and like these edges within the graph. Every edge is like a literature search of whatever science has to offer to describe that connection. Now, this is a fully transparent map, so it's very, very different than the models that we'll talk about them probably a lot today, but these, generative models or language models that are different, that are, they're black box, but they are hugely, amazingly powerful and capable of supporting both, back office tasks, but also clinical tasks. We see these amazing models being validated for their ability to mimic, in a way, clinical decisions making. Kahun, when we started the company, there were no generative AI, okay? It was way back there in 2018, almost prehistoric in the speed of tech today. But, and we built this map in a way that it will be used internally, only for Kahun, with our inference engine. And that's why we built it in with this very, very high granularity of information. In the past year, we understood there is a much bigger, we'll say, opportunity for Kahun, but there is a much bigger market for what we've built. This knowledge graph is, which has the ability to provide clinical oversight for AI solutions, until today only for Kahun's AI solution, but now it can provide this scientific clinical oversight for every model. And that's what we do with this today. I mean, we work with companies that need to use these models, these generative models, for building tools for their end users, who are their providers. And we work with them to enable them to use these models in a way that is safe and reliable, bringing in this clinical oversight in real time for every output of these models, gives them the certainty that these outputs have been validated in real time and are referenced to the academic sources.
That's great. Can you give, kind of a practical example, I think for folks that are listening, about kind of like how that would work? Because I think, what you just described was this Kahun really works, obviously best when it's in partnership with these kind of, maybe these other technologies, that initially Kahun was developing probably some of your own AI kind of tools, but yeah, can you give like just a practical example for kind of listeners to kind of frame up?
Sure. I mean, if you look at the market now, if you look at this landscape, okay, of health tech companies that are leveraging generative AI for their tools, it's a huge market now. It's all the scribing tools, the EHR vendors, the publishers who are building amazing, search engines specific to their content. It's LLM players who are building LLMs that are specific for the medical domain, and coding solutions there are really a vast number of groups of and each one of them has many different types of subdomains. But these health tech companies now are real. It's a booming time for most of the AI in healthcare that we have never seen before. And the reason is because these models have really both, introduced this huge adoption hype by the end users, the end healthcare systems, hospitals and healthcare groups and so on, but also because these models are very capable of helping with back office efficiency tasks, which we know these companies, the scribing tool companies are doing amazingly well. You've had on your podcast so many of them. And the reason why it's so amazingly adopted is because it solves a real problem. It really does save a lot of the administrative burnout that physicians need to do in their daily job. But these models are, having them being used for the documentation and for the administrative tasks is only the beginning. And we are all realizing and seeing their capabilities also for the clinical tasks, the ability to not just produce the note, but also make sure that the actual insights within the note are comprehensive and correct according to the patient-specific context, and adherent with the organization protocols, and backed with a correct reasoning of the decisions behind it. And this is where we see Kahun coming in and helping all these companies from all these different domains bring their solutions to the real clinical impact that they can bring to the healthcare systems.
Interesting. Yeah. And so, really what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, is that, Kahun's primary customer now is really these companies, right? Like the ones that are trying to use the different language models, whether they're their own or a hybrid, or, a conglomerate of some of the consumer facing ones that are out there. But that in kind of harmony, Kahun can help, these like be really clinically meaningful and have, I think obviously you don't need to disclose any like specific relationships that you maybe have in the works now, but like do you think the market generally has been pretty excited about this so far, or at least, the conversations that you've had so far, or any of these early partnerships?
Well, the signal from the market is that each one of these groups that I've mentioned are in the process of introducing clinical support to their solutions, whether it's, again, as I said, scribing tools, the EHRs, the publishers, and so on and so on. But I will say that there is not just one approach. I mean, Kahun is bringing this very unique clinical or scientific clinical oversight to this, but there are other approaches. Because this is an emerging market, and I'm super excited to see how we are going to talk about clinical decision support tools, in 2025 or 2026, because this is like a real, upstage surge of this hype, and there will, and this is the getting into the clinical aspect of these tools is a higher stake environment. And what we are bringing to these companies, this type of guardrail for showing clinical insights for their end users, is one approach. And I believe that we will work together with other companies who are probably using already the same LLM models to bring more and more guardrails, because, as I said, this is a real high stake environment, clinical decision support, and we need to join forces with different foundation models that work in synergy, that overcome the limitations of each other, and to be able to together with the key leaders in the industry, bring these solutions to the market.
No, well said. And I think, I guess even looking a little further out into the future, I could see these types of guardrails once this technology is eventually kind of turned over for patients to use, right? I mean, like, you think right now, we have a variety of different, AI-based kind of triage tools and those types of things. But, that future even further out than 2025 plus, to turn that over for just consumers to use to get kind of health advice, it needs to be even more stringent and much more care for guardrails. But I think that's the hope, is that there will be these types of tools available even on a consumer level to be able to, manage advice and questions and get people kind of navigated into the right place as well.
Absolutely. I think, every company that is in this space of automating or using AI for decision making sees that eventually these, or at least some of these decision making processes, will be automated, and therefore, patients will be able to use some of these tools. But we are far from that. Currently, even the physicians themselves are a part of this guardrail framework, because these AI tools, when they bring decision insights, clinical insights to their providers, the providers still need to make the decision. And it's about how you present and what you need to present together with the clinical insight for the provider to be able to take the advice of the AI and understand it, understand what's the reasoning behind it, understand what's the evidence, the sources of evidence that were used to bring this reasoning, to bring this insight. This process, this multi-step process, or third order decision-making process, is something that is important. It is important also to maintain it, because at the end of the day, I'm thinking, now again, I'm putting my physician hat on back, okay? As a physician, this is a type of tools I would want to work with. I would want to work with a tool that not just, tells me what to do with my patient, or just, gives me an advice that I now need to just, figure out if I can take it or not. I need to know what the advice is based upon. I need to understand it, because I also want to be empowered. I want to become better and better as I continue to practice medicine. I want to understand, the mechanisms behind, not to understand the algorithm. I think we talked about it last time, but explainability. When I say from Kahun, when I say explainability, and when we talk about explainability in Kahun, we talk about making sure the physician understands the explainability of the insight that the machine gave to the provider. It's not about understanding the algorithm. The physicians don't care about the algorithms. They don't need to understand how the models were, the algorithms that these models are based upon. But they do need to understand what the specific insight is based upon and what is the reasoning behind it. And I think because these tools are aimed to be adopted at the end of the day by physicians, we always have to have them in mind when we bring these tools to the market. And this is why we're focused on working with partners. When we choose these partners, we choose the partners that are working very much in line with the providers. So they understand what providers need. And that's why they understand why these oversight solutions are mandatory for clinical decision support.
Yeah, no, well said. I mean, I think that explainability piece and, just in general, there's, I think there's a spectrum of acceptance of any type of like AI tool out there too, across like the spectrum of just say physicians. I mean, I even know rolling out, an ambient scribe solution, there's not going to be 100% adoption, with it. I mean, probably never there would be in a group of people, but even initially there's going to be, there's the only people that are going to adopt are going to be those kind of very early adopters that, going across that kind of adoption cascade that typically happens. And it's not until they see, even some of the promise or some of the, the benefit or some of the help that their colleagues explain that kind of brings them along. And I think, what you're describing in this tool is kind of the same thing, right? I mean, you have to be able to trust the tool. And, there's, you hear a lot of times if there's one thing that gets wrong right away or right in the beginning of an experience, I mean, it can kind of sour the whole thing. So getting this kind of right, from that initial onset is really, really important. And well said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you touched on that trust level. Again, thinking back, we're physicians, we were all using different tools, like, UpToDate, Dynamed. I don't know if I can say these names, but these are such highly trusted tools. But why are they trusted? Were there ever academic validation studies that check that they're always accurate? No. We use them and we know, I mean, when I'm as a pediatrician, okay, a specialist in pediatrics, when I look at an output of a review that I'm reading in one of these tools, and they are speaking, and I see that there are, that I can trust what they are saying in my subspecialty, that's something that really gains trust. So what I want to, really just strengthen what you just said, that the trust is something that is gained, and it's gained from usage. So when we talk about these, back office co-pilots that are writing the notes, and there's it's like, of course, it's super important not to show, not to have any hallucinations or anything like that. But when you're thinking about the clinical co-pilots, these co-pilots becoming a clinical assistant for the providers, the trust will be by usage. It will be gained by usage. As you said, the usage will be first by the early adopters, and then we will see this. So,
yeah, no, definitely, well said. I mean, I think it's. I mean, I guess to my knowledge, I mean, Kahun, I'm not aware of others that are specifically kind of in this space. I mean, I obviously this space is evolving fast, and I'm sure there's folks out there, but I think you've highlighted a lot of ways where this kind of works together. I mean, where do you think your kind of key kind of value proposition or kind of differentiator in this space is? And I'm sure that's probably changed from 2018 to now, but I mean, how would you explain that, I guess, piece? And then, we've talked a little bit about the future forward kind of look to this too, but if there's anything else you could touch upon in that space too, about where you think, Kahun will go and into the future.
Sure. I think these kind of touch together in the differentiation and looking forward, because what Kahun is bringing to the market is a technology that we have established over the years that is, created capturing the knowledge and disseminating the knowledge in a way that makes sure that the science is used in the way that it's supposed to be used. We know sometimes, we talk about the medical knowledge, like PubMed holds all the medical knowledge, but that's not true. PubMed holds, articles, textual articles that describe the medical knowledge. The medical knowledge is very complex. It's a complex, logical understanding of the the effects of different diseases on different populations and diagnostics and treatments and so on. But we bring this representation of the science to these other models is where we see Kahun going forward. It's making sure that whenever AI is used for a clinical decision support tools, it will have that element of the real science. It will always be strongly grounded by the real science. And this representation of the science continues to grow as science continues to grow. So we really see how Kahun is becoming the element that key that makes sure that in this super high risk environment, we will always have that scientific perspective, that scientific oversight on top of these models. Even as the models continue to improve with time, they will always need that oversight, that different way of that different perspective of bringing in the science into this clinical utilization of the models.
Got it. Yeah, and I guess on the flip side too, Kahun will continue to be able to update that, like the knowledge graph as well, right? As the science changes or as new evidence comes along that, changes the way that we maybe historically thought something, was the way to appropriately do. So, kind of working in cahoots with, as the technology evolves on these other kind of generative kind of AI tools, but also keeping that knowledge base sound and up to date. So it's always, again, so you can always trust it and it can be that source, like you mentioned with, we take it for granted that when you go to UpToDate or Dynamed or any of those tools that, what you're going to read is going to be the accurate, evidence-based answer. No, it's super, super interesting. We haven't talked about, I guess Kahun I assume is a worldwide company too. We didn't talk about like where you're based or anything, but I guess we alluded to that our time may be different. It's, early in the morning where I am and late in the evening, or starting to be later in the evening for you. But yeah, can you share a little bit more about kind of the company and kind of the spread and where you're wanting or trying to form these partnerships?
Yes, sure. We're an Israeli-based company. That's why it's later in the almost evening here, talking to you. But we are working mostly with the U.S. market. We do have local partnerships here in Israel. We work here both with one of the leading hospitals here in Tel Aviv, and we also work with the IDF. It's easy. It's easier for us to work locally, especially for the design type of partnerships. But the customer base and operations, everything is in the U.S.
Awesome. No, that's great. I think, I guess the last component that I think I would want to give you a chance to say is, because this is a unique episode for me, because it's the first time I think interviewed someone where really the customer is like some of these other companies, that are kind of trying to, again, advance this space in the same way and help in the same way. But I mean, if they're listening to this episode or catch wind of it, what would be your kind of quick kind of elevator pitch to get their attention and to get them to, hopefully reach out to Kahun for more info?
Sure. I think, these health tech companies, when they are, exploring adding more values into their solutions, more clinical values into their solutions, and wanting to, keep and to maintain their trust level of their companies, the name of their companies, and their customer credibility, and so on. It is super important to think about what kind of guardrails they need to add when they're building these solutions. Now, they could either be leveraging an external LLM, an external generative model, or building their own. This is regardless, actually, because still these models need to have this guardrail solution. So it's about really about the credibility of their solutions, and this is where we want to come in, and this is where we want to help them bring the market and their solutions to the market and keep their customers happy. That's it.
No, excellent. And what's the best way for someone to reach out to Kahun? I assume it's through the website or any of the kind of contact things on there, but yeah, please share.
Yeah. And the website is open. There is always ways to connect with us. Can always connect directly to me if there are stakeholders within these companies, health tech companies, and also healthcare systems. Listening to this podcast. I mean, physicians. I'm sure physicians there are more nerd physicians like us out there, and when they are using these tools by these health tech companies, their EHRs, their scribing tool company tools, and so on, the publishers, search engines, and all these amazing tools that are more on the back office and administrative and documentation support that these tools give them. Remember to ask for more. That's what I would say. Remember to ask the vendors that you work with, what else, how else could they help you? I mean, the administrative and efficiency is just one good important step for man, but there is so much more that we can help with. So I would think that this demand should come from the roots.
Yeah, great advice. Totally agree with everything you just said there. Well, awesome. Let's pivot for this final piece. We'll do our Nerd Alert lightning round, which will get to know you a little bit more, and then get you back to your personal life for the evening here, back in Israel. But so I'm going to ask a few questions just for fun. This is, and if there's something too that you're just like, pass, you can pass on these two. There's no pressure. So, I guess first thing, do you have any outside hobbies outside of technology and healthcare that you enjoy?
Yes, of course I do. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very, nature loving person. So for me, like my biggest love is hiking. I have my short-term needs for nature, and I have my long-term. So there will always be during a year, there will always be a week or a week and a half that I would escape into the mountains somewhere. I have a partner that I will do these adventures with, and that's I think it's like a recharging hobby. It really does feel that it recharges me with what I need with inspiration and with energy and passion. That is something that I think is a must-have for doing what we do, because it's not easy. So that's my long-term.
No, it's great. It's our family's I feel like we've been dragging our kids on hikes for forever. Actually, maybe we even had them in a backpack when they were really little. That was, and we love hiking throughout the Colorado mountains. And then whenever we travel places, we always seek out activities to try hikes. And sometimes we get not a little bit over our head, but sometimes they can be a little bit more challenging than they maybe looked like on paper. But no, it's great. And I think, you kind of led into the second question I usually ask. And usually it's like, oh, what's your the best place you've ever traveled to or visited, but you could kind of comment specifically around one of these most amazing hikes even. But do you have anything to share around there?
Wow, so many to choose from, but you know what? I'll say the one that I haven't done yet.
Great.
Which is Africa. In Kilimanjaro, that's on my to-do list. I've done many places, mostly in Europe, but Africa is is on my wish list. Yeah, and by the way, hiking with the kids is not the same. There is difference. There is the hiking that you do when you get to the places where it's much harder to get with the kids. But with the kids, it's not a once in a year. With the kids, it's like every weekend I drag them up to wherever I can.
Oh yeah, I know. We insist. We go up to the Colorado mountains frequently, and even little local hills that are right behind us are these great hikes that we've done. Now probably hundreds of times, but we always drag our kids. We're like, hey, we're going on this. We're going to the top of this mountain, and they're like, oh, we're doing it again. But yeah, no, it's a blast.
I think I haven't been to the Colorado mountains yet. I'd love to, but the good thing about Israel, Israel is a very small country. But the good thing about when we live here, we live in Tel Aviv, so it's like we drive like 2.5 hours. You're in the green mountains of the north. If you drive 2 hours to the south, you're in the desert. If you drive, south, or you drive west, you're either at the beach or you're in the Dead Sea of, Jerusalem. There's like so diverse nature in this very, very small country.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's super cool. All right. Now, the concept of this podcast too is titled Efficiency Unlocked. So we love it when our guests can share, something that they love and feel like they couldn't live without, kind of from an efficiency standpoint. So do you have a tool or an application or something that you do even that you just love and, would be remiss if you didn't have access to it anymore?
Yes, of course I do. I mean, I think if I use Google Keep, I think if one day the Google Cloud will drop and I will lose all my notes there, that will be the end. I'm not a very good administrative. Administrative wise, this is my weakest character. So I need this, and the way I use it is that I keep my private account for my private thoughts, and I keep my account for my business notes. And whenever something pops into my head, it's so easy for me to just drop it in the correct note for me, and I know it's there, and I can continue working. I know I'm not going to miss it. I'm not going to forget it. So that's just a part of my lifestyle. This tool.
Yeah. These cloud-based kind of documentation tools. I mean, there's obviously lots of them, but even, simple ones is, I think we can't live without them. It would be, and like you said, it would be catastrophic if they ever go down, especially the one you're using. No, well said. If you weren't in your current profession, as a clinician and technologist, what would you be doing and why?
Good question. I always think if I pivoted quite a few times in my life, and it was never like a decision that was thought of and made, and I always just followed my gut, always just followed my passion. I really did love being a programmer. I really did love it. Solving problems. It was like a game, like a mind game that you play, and you have this soul that you can just, solve these problems, every problem that you want. And then medicine is just amazing profession. We know this is like the best use of our minds and our skills and our personal skills and communication skills. And being an entrepreneur is also like this amazing challenge, and feeling that you're bringing something that it really will really make a huge impact in the world. For so many people, not just for the users of your software, it's for the end user, it's for the patients that you're thinking. So I don't know what's ahead, but I know that if something will come up, and it will be felt strongly within my gut, and I will do it. I just don't know what it will be.
Yeah, yet. That's great. I love that advice. Like, kind of follow that path, and take it where it leads you, and kind of go with your gut and follow things that are your passion. And then I love that comment about just the effectiveness and just kind of scale of effect that things can have, when you're trying to, make big solutions. So no, great way to wrap this up today. Michal, I really, really, really really thank you for taking time to talk with me today, and hope our listeners got to know you a little better, and then obviously much more about Kahun. But any final word you want to say, or anything else?
First, no, just to thank you. This was really enjoyable for me too, and I hope also for the listeners. Just thank you so much for having me, and continue doing what you're doing, because you're bringing the technology to the listeners, so they will know what the health tech industry is working on for them. I think this is super important.
Great. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again, and appreciate you taking the time out of your later day.
Thank you, Adam. Have a great day yourself.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved, a NerdMDs podcast by Drs. Adam Carew and Dale Gold.